Her potential Ferrari podium is backed by solid technical reasons. In fact, in Miami last year, the Red One had adapted well to the track, winning a podium despite confirming itself as the third force behind Red Bull and McLaren. A good adaptation to the track layout is also expected in 2025, but the goal is clear: aim for the podium in Miami. And in today's video, we are going to see Ferrari's statements, the tires that will be brought to Miami, what Ferrari plans to bring after Spain, because no, it will not give up the SF25 so prematurely, and then we go to observe how McLaren and Red Bull present themselves. Before we start, of course, if you like the videos on the channel, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe and turn on notifications so you support the work I do. Ferrari can reach the podium in Miami, however, there is the risk of the famous short blanket on the setup to maximize performance. The SF25 might require extreme adjustments as already happened up to Bahrain. Another fundamental aspect will be the very high temperatures in Florida, with the asphalt reaching significant peaks. And this scenario could put in difficulty precisely Red Bull, whose aerodynamic package, as seen in Bahrain, suffers particularly from the heat. If the RB21 were to encounter the same problems, Ferrari could take advantage of it. Surely McLaren presents itself as the most formidable opponent, but also watch out for Mercedes. According to the data collected so far, will be the most direct rival of the SF25 in Miami. The thermal management of the V16's tires proved to be very solid in Bahrain, but in cooler track conditions. In Jeddah, Ferrari showed a clear improvement. Leclerc's SF25 demonstrated a superior race pace compared to Russell's VT16 with less tire degradation. This is thanks to a better balance and a more conservative management of the compounds, which pays off in the race but still requires work to improve qualifying performance. And during the Miami weekend, the presence of the sprint race will help teams gather valuable data on consumption and tire degradation, facilitating any corrections. And the latest races have shown an interesting trend. Cool temperatures like in Japan have favored McLaren and Red Bull. High temperatures like in Bahrain have brought out Mercedes, and mixed tracks like Jeddah have rewarded Ferrari. Miami offers a mix of long straights where the tires cool down, fast curves in T1 and slow sections in T2, and once again everything will depend on the ability of the Maranello team to find the right balance to manage the tires thermally. In 2025, the setup remains a decisive tool. If Ferrari can find the perfect balance, the role of second force in the Miami weekends is absolutely within reach. The teams will also face highly challenging environmental conditions on the technical front. High temperatures and high humidity will characterize the weekend in Florida, similar conditions to those seen in Jeddah, where Pirelli introduced a set of softer compounds compared to 2024 without encountering any problems. Following those positive results, the Italian supplier will bring the C3, C4 and C5 compounds to Miami, confirming the strategy of using softer tires compared to last season. The single stop remains the most likely option, but the greater degradation and the evolution of the track, favored by support categories such as the Formula One Academy and the Porsche Carrera Cup North America, could open up to more varied strategies. The circuit. Miami's circuit measures 3.36 miles and includes 57 race laps with 19 turns and 3 RS zones. The key overtaking spots are at turns 1, 11 and 17. The layout allows for reaching high speeds as maximum speeds. In 2024, Lance Stroll hit 220 miles per hour. The return of the sprint race where Lewis Hamilton had triumphed in Shanghai with the Ferrari SF25 will be an element to watch closely. In fact, the lower fuel loads, a more aggressive, lower configuration of the single-seater, in fact favor the Maranello single-seater, which could express all its potential over the short distance. A curious statistic that accompanies the Miami Grand Prix is that so far no winner has started from pole position, with Max Verstappen and Lando Norris who have won the race even starting from behind. The 2025 edition will also represent the 80th Formula One Grand Prix held in the United States, bringing the country to second place in the world ranking of countries with the most races hosted. After the Miami race, there will be Imola with Ferrari's update package, followed by the Spain race. But then Ferrari does not want to give up the SF25. In fact, a big package is expected to arrive after the Spanish technical directive. The 2025 car models are currently in their final development stages. And by regulation in 2025, each team will be able to afford only one big update package. Compared to the 2 steps of previous years, even the intermediate corrections are limited. For example, McLaren maintains a cautious approach while ready to intervene. The new technical directive on wing flexibility, introduced late, according to some, requires the reconstruction of the front wings with stricter specifications, an operation that costs about $1 million between reserve specimens and load variants. Considering that the average development budget is about $18 million, this is a heavy impact, with Red Bull estimating a waste of 10-20% of the budget due to this change. Being the last year of the current technical regulation, the teams have to divide resources between the current and future project, further increasing the pressure on budgets. But what happens after Spain? With the new directive, the aerodynamic behavior of the cars will change. Less flexibility of the wings means less ability to balance the load between slow and fast curves. This could result in more understeer in medium-slow curves to maintain stability in fast bends. In the first 5 Grand Prix, Verstappen has minimized losses despite challenges from McLaren, as shown by Piastri's win in Jeddah following a penalty. Red Bull is also preparing a package for Imola, which theoretically is worth 0.2 per lap, but doubts remain about the correlation from the tipster. Engineer Giampiero Lambiase has returned to Milton Keynes to work directly on the innovations, taking on a role increasingly similar to that of Ross Brown. In Ferrari, the focus is on small adjustments in the immediate future, with a much more substantial package expected after the introduction of the technical directive in Spain. Work is being done on a revised rear end with the aim of demonstrating that the SF25 project is not a failure. Leclerc is now able to make better use of the car for himself. Getting a good qualification becomes crucial to avoid suffering in the dirty area, given that in 2025 the degradation from turbulence has returned to the levels of 2021. About a second advantage in pace is needed to easily overtake another car. The search for more downforce without lowering the single-seaters too much has led to more complex bodywork and edges of the bottom that generate more unstable turbulent flows for those who are chasing. It's no secret that Lewis Hamilton is struggling to adapt to the ground effect cause. After difficult years at Mercedes, he is now dealing with a Ferrari that is different from his driving habits. In the tests with the SF25, the Brit seemed comfortable, but in the race, the gap with Leclerc is clear. In Jeddah, Hamilton was half a second behind per lap. The main problem is in adapting to the curve center. Both drivers like a responsive front end, but Leclerc manages to handle the car's unstable behavior after insertion better. Hamilton excels in traction and tire management on exit, but today he can no longer rely on the mechanical excursion that was one of his best points. Leclerc and Verstappen remain the most instinctive on the grid, capable of extracting performance even with a rear that is not perfectly stable. So in Miami, it will be crucial to find a little more load at the rear, so even Hamilton can get along better with the Ferrari SF25. And we know that from 2024, after the sprint race, teams can modify the setup of the cars before the traditional qualifications. We saw how in Shanghai, Ferrari significantly worsened after Hamilton's sprint victory. They changed the setup, and from the normal qualifications and in the normal race, Ferrari was no longer recognizable. So it will be crucial for Ferrari to find a good setup at the beginning of the weekend, but also to maintain it afterwards for the normal race. With lighter fuel loads and a reduced distance, the sprint becomes a valuable simulation of tire behavior for Sunday. And also watch out for Mercedes in Miami. In fact, Kimi Antonelli wants to take another step forward in Miami and try to beat his teammate George Russell. Recently, the young talent from Bologna has been getting increasingly close to the Brit. In Jeddah, despite some physical problems, dizziness, on a track that reaches accelerations over the input provided is not a metric system unit. Please provide a valid metric system unit such as kilometers, meters, grams, etc. Kimi finished with only a 7-second gap. Now the opportunity is tempting. The relatively simple layout of Miami could favor him, and beating his teammate with the same car would be a huge confidence boost for his growth. The Miami track suits Antonelli's style well. Increasingly solid in the cornering phase, Kimi prefers a karting approach, early braking, early apex and early acceleration. This more aggressive entry technique allows him to gain ground on Russell coming out of the corner, especially in the slower sections. He can take advantage at 3 key points, turns 116 and 17. The critical point will be the first sector, the most technical part of the track. The combination of a medium-low aerodynamic setup and only one free practice session in the sprint race weekend will make car management more complicated, especially for a driver with little experience on this track like Kimi. But Antonelli has worked hard on the simulator to prepare for Miami, focusing specifically on T1 and testing various configurations of
setup. The
Saturday's sprint race will be crucial for him. It will allow him to study tire degradation in race conditions and refine the management of the tires in view of Sunday. After Jeddah, Antonelli emphasized how important it is to find the right balance before pushing to the max in the race. In Miami, stabilizing the tire temperature will be complicated due to the long straights. For Kimi, it will be crucial to preserve the tires in the slow corners of the second and third sector, where he can maximize his driving style to make up ground against Russell. So for Kimi, the goal to beat Russell will be to maximize the qualifying lap, limit the damage in the first sector, intelligently manage tire degradation, and race with the solidity and clarity already demonstrated in the last races. But we also have to talk about McLaren. In fact, 2025 started with them dominating 4 victories out of 5 Grand Prix and 1 Sprint 1, confirming themselves as the most competitive and versatile team on the grid. While the Constructors' Championship lead appears secure, the Drivers' Championship lead is far from certain. Piastri leads Verstappen by 12 points, Russell by 26, and Leclerc by 52. A significant margin but recoverable, and the next month will expose the vulnerability areas of the MCL39, just as it approaches the introduction of the new technical directive on front wings. In fact, the great strength of the MCL39 lies in the management of the rear tires, thanks to the abundant aerodynamic load and a refined balance. McLaren can use less aggressive suspensions, reducing wear. Bahrain and Australia, where tire degradation is crucial, have showcased this quality. Also in Spain, Canada, Austria, Hungary, and the Netherlands, McLaren should shine, but not everywhere. The MCL39, like its predecessors, is more aggressive on the front tires. The Pirelli 2025 tires have reduced the issue, but Miami's smooth asphalt and softer compounds may test the team. Other critical tracks for the front axle will be Silverstone and Spa. Another minor weakness of the McLaren is embedded in the dry lap. McLaren, despite having the stronger car, missed the pole at Jeddah, Suzuka, and in the Shanghai Sprint. Norris, in particular, struggles to find the right feeling. So in May, with decisive qualifications at Imola and also at Monte Carlo, it will be crucial for them to improve their competitiveness on the single lap. Monte Carlo will also debut the new C6 compound, requiring even more delicate tire management. And also pay attention to the agility on the curbs and disconnections, which were a limit in 2024, both for McLaren but especially for Red Bull. Another variable will certainly be the technical directive from Barcelona, which bans further flexibility of the front wing, less deformation allowed by high speeds, and this will have an impact on the aerodynamic load on the front, with the risk of destabilizing the rear. And inside the paddock, everyone says be careful that McLaren will suffer this technical directive by removing the perfect balance of the MCL39, which will have less load on the front and therefore less chance of having grip on the front tires. But in May, McLaren will also introduce an update package focused mainly on the rear. So the challenge for the 2025 title is far from over. McLaren has the potential to win the Drivers' World Championship, but the journey is still arduous and challenging. But let's also talk about the Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile swearing case, which is ready to modify Appendix B of the Sports Code. In fact, the Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile's battle against foul language in championships under its jurisdiction is about to enter a new phase. After months of controversy, the president of the International Automobile Federation, Mohammed Ben Sulayem, has announced that Appendix B of the International Sports Code could soon be modified. After discussions with drivers' representatives from the 7 main Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile categories, including Formula 1 and the World Rally Championship, Ben Sulayem is open to reviewing the regulations. Following the constructive feedback received from so many drivers who race in Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile championships, I am considering improving Appendix B, the president stated. As a former rally driver, I understand their reasons better than others. Appendix B is central to keeping our sport accessible to all families. Humans make the rules and humans can improve them. This principle guides every one of our actions. This is what Ben Sulayem stated, but what does Appendix B really say? The current text reads, the commissioners have the authority to decide which penalty to apply in case of violation of the International Sports Code and or the applicable Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile regulations. They can also consider mitigating or aggravating circumstances, adapting the sanction to the specific context. This wording has fueled numerous criticisms, particularly after the penalties imposed on Max Verstappen in Formula 1 and Adrian Formeau in the World Rally Championship for the use of language considered inappropriate. And the proposed changes should introduce greater flexibility in judging cases of colorful language, distinguishing between different contexts and episodes without compromising on the protection of the sport's image. And I add, fortunately, this appendix will be modified. It will be interesting to see to what extent the Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile will be willing to soften its position and where it will set new limits instead. A balance not easy to find between the protection of institutional values and respect for the emotional authenticity that has always characterized motorsport. Let me know in the comments your opinion on all the topics we covered in the video. As always, I remind you to leave a like, subscribe, activate notifications to support me in the work I do. I leave you other related videos. Rasa tutto, see you next video!